This is intro to section 4.2. This is part 2. In part 1, we talked about side, 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 a way to prove two triangles congruent. Now this one's going to be a little bit different. On this one, we're going to use what we call the side angle side postulate. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about what's included and how that is understood. So you can also show relationships between a pair of corresponding sides and an included angle. In this case, included, the word included, and you'll want to write this down in your notes, means the word between. Okay, so it says A is included between BA and B and AC. Here is BA, here is AC. This angle is included. It's, again, in this case, side, then the angle, then the side. Okay, side, angle, side. The word included refers to the angles and the sides of the triangle as shown. So in here, over here on the right, it says BC is included between angle B and C. Side BC is included in between angle B and angle C. Okay, that's important that you remember included in terms of as we're talking about this information. Okay, so postulate 4.2, the side angle side postulate. It says if two sides and the included angle, so in other words, if two sides and the angle in between of one triangle are included to the two sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. So you'll notice again, you see over here on the left triangle we have a side, then an angle, then a side in order. Okay? And over on the right side, the corresponding parts here, this also has a side, an angle, and a side. So they have to be, again, in that order. The angle has to be in between the two sides. If that's the case, then we can say that the two triangles are congruent. So if we have an opportunity where we can say side, angle, side, that's another way to prove that two triangles are congruent. Okay, now as you look here at the example, it says here, what other information do you need to prove that triangle DEF is congruent to triangle FGE or FGD by side angle side? Now this technically isn't necessarily a proof. Okay? This is not really a proof per se. What we want to know is what other information do we need to know? Well, as you look at the triangles, again, as you match these up, you're going to have to make sure that you match up the corresponding sides, okay, and angles. So you notice we have EF and DG are congruent to each other. So I could write this EF is congruent to DG, okay? We know that. All right. Now, as you're looking at the other sides that you could put down here, we could put this as a given. Okay, again, and this is not a proof. They want to know what other information you need to know. As you look at the picture, what other side could we say right now is congruent? Well, they both share this FD or DF. So I could say FD is congruent to FD by, and in this case, if you had to say it in a proof, you would say that was reflexive property. And if I mark that, okay. Now, the challenge is figuring out where your angle is. Remember, your angle has to be in the middle of the two sides. So if I say this is a side and this is a side, the angle can't be here because it's not in the middle. The angle can't be here because it's not in the middle. Okay? We have an angle and we have other angles and other sides in here that are between that. It has to be in specific order. So if I want the other angle would have to be in here that the other angle that we're going to have is we have that side is going to have to be this angle and this angle. So again, you have side, angle, and side in the bottom triangle. And on the top triangle, you have a side, an angle, and a side on the top triangle. Okay, so then you would have to say somehow, and you would have to say angle EFD would be congruent to angle GDF. Okay, and it could be a multitude of reasons depending on what information they give you and if it was in a proof. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here now at this bottom example. It says, would you use side 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 or side angle side to prove the triangle's congruent? If there's not enough information to prove triangles congruent by these, then write not enough information. So as you're looking at these, you're trying to decipher, is there enough info in the picture? And if there is, which one of the two could I use to show that they're congruent? So as you look at letter A, now as before I get started with this, my suggestion to you would be to pause it and see if you can get these four and then come back and see if you're correct. Okay, so make sure you pause it, go through it first, see if you get these correct. Okay, now that you're back from pausing, let's take a look at letter A. We've got these two triangles. Now, you'll notice the one I'm not going to use for sure is side, 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 because not all three sides are marked. I do have a side and then an angle and then a side. Over here, on this triangle, do I have a side, an angle, and a side? I sure do. I could say that these two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. Okay. Now, as you look at the one, letter B. Letter B over here on this left triangle, again, on these two triangles, I'm not going to use side, side, side because not all three sides are marked. So I have to see if I can try and use side, angle, side. Well, over here on the left, you've got side, an angle, and then a side. Okay. So I started 2, then I went the angle, then I went 1. Well, if I go 2, then I go the angle, well, wait a second, that angle's not marked, and then I go 1, is that side, angle, side? No. This doesn't count. Side here, angle here, side here, because there's another angle and a side here in that order. Okay? So this one on the second one is not enough info. Okay? Not enough info. Now, as you look at C, okay, on letter C, you'll notice all three sides are marked. Now, are they corresponding sides? For example, I'd have to rotate this guy over on top. Are they going to be the exact same thing? Sure they are. This is side and this is side, side, side on letter C. Side, side, side. Okay. Last one, D. Again, I've got to make sure that my corresponding sides will match up. So if I were to rotate this over, I'd get the 3 on the 3, the 2 on the 2, and the 1 on the 1. So in this case, yes, these are side, side, side. There's enough information there to write that those are congruent. Okay. All right, so we've talked about side, angle, side, and side, side, side as two ways to prove triangles congruent using those postulates. This concludes section 4.2 part 2. Don't forget to complete your WSQ for this as well.